Look,
it's only 2 weeks.
Well, there is that. Yeah, well, it's spoiling it. I don't know. It sounds ages away, doesn't it? Mid-October. Tessa and David, with us, and thank you for eschewing the delights of Brighton to be on our press preview tonight. Should we just comment on that picture on The Guardian, first of all? Blow to Corbyn as Labour delegates bar Trident. But the interesting thing is the picture. And it is Harriet Harman accepting flowers from Jeremy Corbyn after a bit of a dust-up over women in the party.
And quite right, too. I mean, hadn't gone to town. And it's sort of valedictory. This is the conference at which she is hailed as the acting leader, great gratitude from the Labour Party, 23 years on the front bench. And, you know, Harriet is a woman of passionate commitment to causes, and she has changed this country over her years of service.
She looks rather surprised though in that picture, yes.
Pretty cross that all the progress that she's fought so hard for appears to have been cast aside by these boys now running the Labour Party. So I think she looks as if she's wondering whether she actually wants to take these flowers from Jeremy Corbyn. And I think this is the kind of photograph that will no doubt appear on the front cover of Private Eye, with balloons coming out of two mouths.
Give us your captions and your balloons, and maybe if they're publishable, we'll comment on this later.
But every plaudit Harriet receives, she deserves.
Right. While Tessa has praised Harriet, may I use this opportunity to praise somebody else, the humble press photographer. We don't see much of them in politics because a lot of what we write ends up with a headshot.
Facundo Arisa.
Well, there we go. In the party conference, they get more access to the politicians, and they come up with some great pictures which illustrate.
Well, there's a cracker on the front of the Telegraph as well, isn't there? That's a really good photo with that wheel just by the Brighton pier.
That's a revolution going on behind him. By
very good.
Things, yeah.
Well, look, we'll come to the front page of the Telegraph in a moment. Let's go inside for your first choice, which is page 5 of the Express, and there is that wheel again, and they've framed it as a halo around him quite cleverly. Labour at war after Corbyn dodges vote on Trident missiles.
Well, you see, I think when you did the run through, Mark, all the headlines,
front pages,
the front page headlines, secret plot to oust
Labour moderates.
Middle Britain face tax hike, Labour at war. Labour at war is one of the favourite headlines for party conference. I think every party conference I've been at for the last 20 plus years, you have Labour, one headline which is Labour at war, tax war on middle classes. Now, what is so dangerous about this is that in the public's mind, although no policy has been settled, the media are doing it for the party, and it's a great risk to concede that.
Let's put
easily.
This to David. I mean, fair means or foul, or have Labour done this to themselves in terms of already effectively failing to get Trident, for instance, onto the floor of the conference?
I mean, first, defend the use of the word war. It's a three-letter word, and it sums things up in headlines, and it's just a simple way of saying things. But there is undoubtedly some kind of schism within Labour as the party is now. The difficulty for Jeremy Corbyn is he's spent the last 35 years, or however long he's been an MP, going on about Trident. One of the key issues that he's been obsessed with, and he believes in it strongly, that it should be abolished. So he's not getting a vote on it.
And there's a suggestion that maybe a lot of people who voted him for the leadership was because of that principle stand on nuclear weapons.
But 2/3 of the shadow cabinet, about 19 of them when I did a ring round the other day, are in favour of renewing Trident. Also, if about 5 or 6 of them would probably quit if it became Labour policy. So I think secretly Jeremy Corbyn doesn't want to vote.
He's a bit relieved because it's got him off the hook.
Inflame the whole situation.
So is this not really correct, this assessment on the front of the eye, that he loses his first battle on Trident? He's actually managed to avoid the battle.
The battle will not happen, and it won't happen because the unions voted against a debate on a motion on Trident. Why did the unions vote against it? Not that they're, that they're engaging in the essence of the debate, but they know how many jobs are tied up in it.
And that's fair enough, because they're there to represent their members.
Absolutely. But this is where, I mean, it's really interesting, the politics of this, because it always used to be the trade unions that kept the Labour Party to the centre ground.
So how many more difficulties are they going to cause Jeremy Corbyn now? I put this to John earlier down in Brighton. Are they going to flex their muscles as a result of their success?
I think the unions will take a very strong line on Europe.
Right.
And so if Jeremy Corbyn allows a Euroscepticism to creep into Labour's position on Europe, which I think would be quite wrong. The unions will say, not so fast, mate, because remember, workers' rights, solidarity, and so forth, the benefits that membership of the European Union have brought to
free
people
movement
working,
of workers across.
The statutory holidays.
Well, Trident is a microcosm of the rude awakening which Jeremy Corbyn is going through at the moment.
But this is the real bogeyman now that the Telegraph's looking at, with John McConnell, of course, going to outline economic plans for the first full day.
This story is trailing his speech tomorrow.
And what they're saying is that it is redistribution of wealth, and they're talking about tax rates on the middle class, which, of course, is something that Tony Blair fought against. He didn't want to scare off those middle classes, Mondeo man, Worcester woman, all those sort of people that they were trying to attract to New Labour.
So it's a 50 pence tax rate back. It's inheritance tax reforms being ditched, overhauling the Bank of England, increasing corporation tax for big business. And he's also appointed this French economist called Thomas Piketty. Who's in favour of 80% for the highest earners in tax. Now, the Tories analysed this today and said, they would say this, wouldn't they, you might say, that it would cost £12,000 extra for every working family, which sounds a lot of money to me. But nevertheless, he is doing what the centre ground of the Labour Party say he shouldn't be doing, which is hitting the people he needs to win over.
Not the millionaires,
but the middle class, middle Britain.
Yeah.
And Peter Hain wrote a piece in The Sun on Sunday today in which he says this would be wildly unelectable, and they shouldn't be taxing people. They should be going for growth, and tax is the opposite of growth.
And to go back to what we were saying a moment or two ago, once you establish this in the public mind, you can't get, it won't, you can qualify it, you can say, we didn't mean it quite like that, but actually people will believe after this tomorrow, if this is what John McDonnell said, that Labour has become a high tax party again. It doesn't matter about the fairness or anything else. But
what about this other idea that they're talking here, that they'll review, as they say, the national institutions that manage our economy, in particular the role of the Bank of England? I mean, are there suggestions there that the bank will no longer be independent?
Well, the question there
which is something Gordon Brown was so
exactly. The question there, I think, is whether the Bank of England retains the responsibility for setting interest rates. And you're quite right. It was one of the first reforms introduced in 1997 by the then new Labour government in order...
Although some say Ken Clarke had put it in place, really, for Gordon Brown.
Well, fine. It was a very good idea to maintain independence in interest rates and, to preclude the political fixing that had characterised so much.
And the
of
Bank of
debate.
England Governor, Mark Carney, has warned that overhauling the bank in this way would damage the economy and hurt the poor and the elderly.
OK, let's go on to one other aspect, which is on the Times. Well, we ought to mention, what a fantastic photograph there.
It's a wonderful photograph.
This is the moon last night, as well, it'll be tonight, won't it?
Tonight,
Glastonbury tour, so they were out bright and early for that. And this is the supermoon coinciding with the lunar eclipse. I suspect they've used a bit of a long lens with a depth of field there to get that.
But however they've done it, they've
big,
created a beautiful
wonderful,
picture.
isn't it? Yeah. Below that, secret plot to oust Labour moderates.
Well, I think again, there's going to be a lot of this. there are a lot of rumours about the reintroduction of mandatory reselection.
And to be specific, these would be people who decline to serve in the Corbyn shadow cabinet.
This story is about that, but it's all part of a piece with the... Enough has been said to suggest that
Tristram
there will
Hunt,
be
Chuka
reselection.
Umunna, Yvette Cooper, Liz Kendall, Emma Reynolds, Rachel Reeves, Chris Leslie.
It's you know, ridiculous to suggest that they can simply be deselected, and it's this that's very damaging. You know, they represent, you know, all those members of Parliament, distinguished members of the shadow cabinet that gave it strength and ballast, and were leaders of the shadow cabinet when Ed Miliband was leader. So, I mean, this is a very foolish tactic.
Okay. Let me put this to you before you try and wend your way down on the bus replacement service to Brighton tonight.
I'm be driving.
Because they strangely have stopped all the rail services going down to Brighton on the eve of the conference. Really
Guido Fawkes says it's the government's revenge.
Well, I mean, the unions apparently been, you know, saying, is this a bit of sort of cunning planning by someone to stop us getting there?
With it being the Brighton Conference, there's a quip from one of the Department of Transport officials, one of the Tories, who said, we always make sure that we do the rail works when there's not much need for it in that area.
So, hey, let me put this to you. You're going down to Brighton to kick off the conference week. Are you looking forward to it, or are you thinking this is going to be a real bun fight? I mean, journalistically, what are you expecting?
It is going to be a bit more difficult for us this year because Labour have, under Jeremy Corbyn, have made it clear they're not going to do business with us. So we're not going to get any of the leaks on policy, I wouldn't have thought. But we do know lots of people in the Labour Party who talk to us, so we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
You'll find them.
I always enjoy going down there because
we are going to have to change that because he has really held, particularly television, at arm's length so far.
Yes. I think, again, I said a rude awakening for the man. It is a rude awakening. He realised he can't go through life as a leader of a party that wants to form a government without talking to the media. He wants to talk to the people. Well, you have to talk to the people through the media. Most people get their news through television.
Yeah, although, I mean, they've made great play, and this is what they say has engaged the youngsters. They've gone through social media, they've gone through different channels of communication, because he says there is a different way of communicating with the electorate now.
No, that's absolutely right. But remember, the people who vote are people over 60. You know that, and you know
the baby boomer
they're not
generation,
and they're not all on Twitter. And but you know, his appearance on the Andrew Marr programme today is reviewed. I think it was a very well conducted interview, and I think that Jeremy Corbyn acquitted himself very well in his terms. He got the account of himself out. But there's a very important point here. I don't think the Labour Party at the moment is thinking about government. This is all the process of review and discussion and debate and building a movement. This has got nothing to do with the prospect of forming a government and walking into 10 Downing Street in 2020.
So, a 10-year plan then? Right, still to come, why 1 in 20 Britons are drinking rainwater. Times are tight. OK, David Cameron's been at the UN, will drop demand to oust Assad, who is being supported now quite significantly, some would say, by Russia.
Well, we have to see whether the discussions at the UN Annual Assembly are actually going to make progress in a negotiated peace settlement or ceasefire in Syria. But I think this story is also another very important reminder that we're transfixed on what's happening at the Labour Party conference.
And this is the real world.
This is the real world.
Point.
This is what really matters.
Yeah. OK. It is now time for the papers, and joining us this evening, former Labour Minister, Culture Secretary, Dame Tessa Jowell, and the political editor of The Sun on Sunday, David Wooding. Thanks for being with us again.
Pleasure.
As ever, first the front pages of all the papers, and yes, it is the Labour Party conference dominating. There's the Telegraph saying that tomorrow Labour will reveal its plans to launch, as they say, tax raids on the middle class and target big business in a bid to redistribute wealth more evenly, as they say. More details in the Daily Mail, which says the move shows the party moving even further to the left. Tax war middle class, its headline. The Eye goes with Jeremy Corbyn failing to force a vote on Britain's nuclear deterrent Trident, saying he's lost his first battle. Its sister paper, The Independent, with more, with a photo of Mr Corbyn and the former acting Labour leader, interim leader Harriet Harman, and a bunch of flowers and maybe a caption competition, as Tessa says, for Private Eye. Same story for The Guardian, describing it as a major blow to Jeremy Corbyn's authority. Times has details of a leaked email suggesting the Labour leader's supporters plan to move against moderate MPs who declined to serve in his shadow cabinet. But the Metro goes with the deaths of the 4 people in that collision between a quad bike and a sports car in West Yorkshire. Sun reporting on Rugby World Cup organisers investigating claims that a man was spotted spying on Australia's preparations for, yes, that crucial match with England. Story of a newborn baby who became Britain's youngest organ donor, inspiring 100,000 others to sign up, according to the Daily Mirror's front page story, Teddy's Gift. Daily Express with a story about how 1 million low-paid workers are losing out from their pension pots because of a loophole on tax relief. And the Daily Star says warm weather is set to last until mid-October, which is, as Tessa says, only a few weeks away, but it'll do. Don't knock it. Well, don't knock it. They're knocking Labour on the front page of the Daily Mail on a tax war on the middle class. Of course, it is going to be tomorrow at Brighton, the economic policies of John McDonnell, but they're indicating that this is going to be a pretty hefty redistribution of wealth.
Well, they are talking to the press down in Brighton, it appears. So some of the nuggets from the Shadow Chancellor's speech tomorrow have been briefed out. And among the main thrust seems to be more taxes. And he seems to be going for what Labour moderates have warned against, i.e. distancing Labour from the vast majority of people in Britain.
Middle England, what they call Worcester Woman and Mondale Man.
The people who left Labour last time to vote UKIP or Conservative even, and the people who they've got to win back if they're going to get into power. But no, John McDonnell says he wants to increase tax, scrap the reforms to inheritance tax, bring back the 50p tax rate, increase corporation tax on businesses, and overhaul the Bank of England. The Mail are portraying this as war on the middle classes.
And an indication earlier too, you were saying that they're going to be talking to a French economist who's recommending an 80% tax rate?
Thomas Piketty. Yeah. He's in favour of squeezing the rich. Now, I think we had those well before I was born, Tessa. In the Harold Wilson days, the taxes were something around 85%.
Well, I think there was a super tax that the Beatles
exactly. The
said,
aggregate marginal rate was up at over 90%. And for decades now, there has been a broad consensus about the top rate of tax at 40, then 45%, and then and 50% has always been contentious. And
i.e. costs more to actually bring it in than you get from the tax itself.
Exactly.
And of course it inhibits growth too if you tax it, because people don't have the money to spend
and
back in the economy.
There is, but this list on the front page of the Mail, I mean, it'd be interesting to go back and square what the Mail have said with what either John McDonnell or Jeremy Corbyn actually said. But the fact that this is now splashed on the front page of Mail is part of the problem. That if you don't define your terms, then the media will do it for you.
Right.
And if you create a sense of hostility to the media, then they'll do it even more.
Hence maybe inside page there, 10 trots and marxists, everyone's welcome. I mean, yes, it is the Daily Mail. They would say that, wouldn't they?
But I think this is a cause. This is a cause for concern, because the membership of the Labour Party has increased enormously. Labour's now up at what? 450,000 members. Now, it's great that people want to join the Labour Party. It's not great if they're joining the Labour Party in order to destabilise the Labour Party, to move against MPs that they don't like, and so forth. If this is organised entryism, then it's got to be stopped.
And this was something that Neil Kinnock took on with Militant back in the
Absolutely.
1980s and had a huge battle, of course.
And of course, that's why Labour became electable again, because they were out of power for
And Jeremy
for nearly 20
Corbyn,
years.
when he was interviewed on Andrew Marr this morning, said, we welcome, which is where this headline comes from, we welcome these people as long as they subscribe to Labour values. But there has to be policing of the point of entry to the Labour Party and full participation.
And who
in the
defines
life.
what Labour values are?
Absolutely.
Jeremy,
that's all
this is
right.
what
We
Jeremy-
have a statement of values.
Right.
We have a statement of values, and you have to sign up to that and say, this is what I believe. But that needs to be properly enforced, and people that don't do that then should be knocked back and not allowed into the Labour Party.
I think the Conservative Party strategy to take on Corbyn is not to attack Corbyn, but to say this is the new look Labour Party. This is Labour policy. Labour are a left-wing party. And this just feeds into that, because with Jeremy Corbyn saying we're welcoming all these people, let's have them all in. And of course the reason he was elected was because a lot of people who like his views or like him and what he stands for voted for him.
But also-
including Trident, of
Yes.
course,
Yeah.
which is not going to be voted on now.
Is not going to be voted on, and the Conference Arrangements Committee, which is quite an arcane body that decides which motions are going to come on the conference floor, it was the union vote in the Conference Arrangements Committee that made sure that Trident wasn't debated, and that's the unions asserting the importance of the jobs that the renewal of Trident will
Yeah. Now, it's interesting
sustain.
that the take in the Daily Mirror, Labour supporting newspaper, Jeremy's a TV winner in its opinion column there, but the headline there for the meat of the conference, slash and earn. An exclusive, basically, on what John McConnell's likely to
Well,
outline.
I think there are 2 points there. First of all, Jeremy's a TV winner. This is about his interview today
Marr,
with Andrew
BBC.
Marr, where I think he did very well, but on his terms. He got his account out. He dealt with Trident. He dealt with tax and spend. He dealt with electability of the Labour Party, conflict in the Labour Party. He handled it in a very calm and unruffled way,
Right.
because this is what he believes.
But, David, is there a perception that he's not media-friendly, that he's not at ease with reporters asking questions, with being put on the spot with camera crews and so on?
That's right. He's basically... His style seems to be working at the moment. He seems to be foxing interviewers in a way, because he's like an nice old guy down at the pub, sitting there. I would have said in the old days with a pint, but with a pipe and a pint, and talking about, let's not fight, let's not have wars, let's talk to people,
sensibly about things.
and then well, nobody agrees with it. Yeah, but we'll have a chat and we'll sort it all out. There's no point arguing about these. And he seems a very, very reasonable man. He's got a very relaxed style. He's quite likeable. He's very polite, and I reckon you feel a bit difficult as an interviewer giving him a hard time in an interview.
Because it's anti-politics.
Exactly.
In a true sense of the word.
In the same way as Nigel Farage for UKIP is. However, he is going to come under scrutiny, and as I said earlier, the Conservative Party will be saying this is what the Labour Party stands for.
And you see Kevin Maguire in the Mirror has made exactly that point, that his performance on Andrew Marr's programme this morning may well, in time, set a pattern that confounds his critics.
Right, well, the
We have to
Times,
see.
meanwhile, is adding more fuel to the fire. With a secret plot, it says, to oust Labour moderates. Having talked about the Trotskyists, the far left, whatever, there are those, of course, who had not decided to join his shadow cabinet. Names there: Tristram Hunt, Chuka Umunna, Yvette Cooper, and so on and so forth. This is indicating that there may be a price to pay for that. Do you believe
yes.
that?
I mean, I think first of all, you've always got to go back to the source of these stories, which are full of hyperbole. This it came from Tony Woodhouse, a member of Unite's executive committee, who wrote to fellow officials. This is not an official position. This is an internal memo from somebody who, for
But it's
whom
being
people like.
considered. It's being considered. That's the important thing.
Well, when it was raised 10 days ago, Tom Watson, I think it was, said there was absolutely no question of reselection of MPs. But it's one of those... I mean, this is precisely the problem, because these stories are not comprehensively rebutted. They keep on coming back. And this is what will make the Parliamentary Labour Party ungovernable, and he has to have their loyalty as the leader.
And presumably this is something in the coming week, these and other issues, that you and others will be trying to find, how much weight do you attach to this?
And John McDonnell, in an interview with the Sunday Times this morning, didn't rule it out when he was pressed on this issue. Would there be reselections of moderate MPs? And of course, going back to that earlier story about entryism and all the hard left people joining the Labour Party, if they take over a local constituency party, they can have a
But the names here are the talent in the Parliamentary Labour Party. Tristram Hunt, Yvette Cooper, Liz Kendall, Emma Reynolds, Chuka Umunna, Rachel Reeves, Chris Leslie. These are serious and competent.
Although Liz Kendall came last on the voting list in terms
Liz Kendall did, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It didn't mean that she wasn't a very good shadow minister on health and social care.
And we should just reflect on that fantastic photograph on the front of the Times there, the moon, of course, which that's a Glastonbury tour, and you'll be able to see that tonight for the supermoon, no less. Also coming up here, hard spying at the centre of a new row in rugby. We'll be trying that out in a moment. Get it?
This has been the news review of the pictures, hasn't it?
It has, and why not?
Absolutely.
Some very good pictures. I think let's just go back. I think we're going to give our prize maybe. Is it going to be Harriet and Jeremy Corbyn, or is it going to be Jeremy Corbyn on his own with the Telegraph? You decide.
I like the other one with Harriet because of the expressions are fabulous.
I know.
Right.
And also it's great potential for bubbles.
Yeah.
Speech bubbles.
Keep them coming in. We haven't been able to share any published on television anyway. Thank you for your selection. Have a great week at Brighton. We'll see you soon. Weather details for you now.